I'm going to read off our guest speaker's bio. His name is Beau Haralson. He's an entrepreneur, investor, and growth strategist with deep expertise in M&A, marketing, and scaling companies to exit. As a CEO of 528 Partners, he specializes in disciplined roll-up strategies that maximize enterprise value. He has overseen over $250 million in ad spend, driving campaigns for global brands like Google, Nike, Netflix, Southwest Airlines. Beau has built and sold multiple agencies, including Climb Marketing, and has worked with leaders like LeBron and Arnold Schwarzenegger. Today, he helps founders and investors prepare for successful exits by blending high-budget marketing with operational and financial strategy. Let's welcome to the stage Beau Haralson.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Beau.
Thank you for coming today.
Yeah, thank you guys.
I do believe we have a mic for him.
Yep. Appreciate it.
Just
Ironically, I was in this room about a month and a half ago with another Utah-based company called, I don't know if you've heard this, and are we okay with expletives in this room, but it's called Shit Pitch.
Oh yeah.
So a good friend of mine, Kent, runs that out of Utah, and I had the same problem with the door 6 weeks ago. So I'm embarrassed that I don't learn that fast, and that's a big kind of part of my journey. Is I just kind of take the Forrest Gump approach, just keep running. Or just keep swimming, as we talk about with our kids. And so I'm happy to talk to you guys about the walls that I've run into, figuratively and literally, and my acquisition journey. But man, Nathan, number one, I put on events in the past. Of the things I've done, events are some of the hardest things I've done. So like getting humans to show up and give their time and their money and their efforts is amongst the hardest things. And I think like quality over quantity is always the default. I can tell that you've done this efficaciously in the context that you're going for quality over quantity. There's a lot of people in the mastermind type space that are just out there to build a room of quantity, tell some platitudes, do some non-specific things, and hype people up, and then they walk home and then they go, okay, what do I do with all that? I can tell that you're high integrity, high efficacy, that you're here to create a high quality environment. So number one, kudos to you, Ned, for putting that on and putting that together.
Thank you. I did not pay him to say that at all. It blows me away. That's a very, very kind of you to say that. It brings me, and then we'll get into the questionnaires, and it just brings me back to the life I used to live. I was born and raised on a farm. You know, my family owns and operates a maple syrup operation right now. And it goes back to the quality of the product that we would give and create to the world. No additives, no sugars, right? And I think to your point, there's a lot of things that are added to life that are fake, you know? Yeah. And I think that just making sure that everything that we do is foundationally sound to where we can continue to build on a solid foundation. So thank you for that.
Appreciate it.
So let's get into this. Let's talk a little bit about your exit. I want to go right there because that's the end in mind. Mm-hmm. And then what we're going to do is we'll start to build in the value proposition or the ways that you're able to create value for an exit. And then also some of the things that you're seeing that people do well with creating value for the company and then also exiting.
Sure. Yeah, so if there's 10 mistakes that you can make in exiting a company, I think I made like 7 out of 10 in selling my first company. So I'll just go ahead and say that outright. My first exit was from a marketing agency. Similar background to you, I like growing other people's companies, and that's really where I've gotten a lot of reps and sets. I did start on the corporate side of that, in-house, if you will, and you're going to get to know me and my kids, because actually my professional journey interlocks with my personal journey as it relates to kids. So my first company that I sold was about 6 to 9 months after my first kid was born, and he was born 2 months early. And so we spent 6 weeks in the hospital here in Boulder County with him. And I tell all of my entrepreneurs that are thinking about exiting that the best thing they can do is spend a few weeks away from their company. Ideally not in a forced situation like ours with 6 weeks in a hospital, but I came back with the fire in my belly to like operationalize and not always have to be the guy in the room in a service-based business, which is the hardest thing to untangle if you're the founder and leader of a service-based company. Is, whether you try to do it or not, you're just always getting grabbed by the collar. Hey, Beau, we need you at this pitch. Hey, we need you at this account meeting. Hey, we need you at this thing. And so I had to unwrite myself from those processes. And the easiest way to do that, or in our scenario was just to spend 6 weeks at the hospital with my son. And so I came back and I did a full audit on my company, and I go, I got to fix this, I got to fix that, I got to do that. I lost a client or two, which honestly, like, good riddance if you can't handle a founder being, tied up with for a medical emergency of sorts. And so rebuilt that, and that's ultimately what put us in a position where there was enough operationalized that a company would take a look at us and buy us. Service-based earnout. So I committed to a 2-year earnout in that scenario at a larger agency in Boulder, which is, again, you're going to get to know my kids throughout this journey, because the second part of the journey was, as my second kid came along, I had to make some hard decisions yet again. So
I can't wait to get into this. My brain is thinking. My brain is thinking in frameworks and systems, because immediately you came back from your exit for 6 weeks or so, or whatever, however long that was, and then you immediately looked at some things. And isn't that nice though? When you walk away from something, then you can come back to it a little bit more fresh. So share with us a little bit more about the strategic frameworks that you implemented and how you were able to identify each of those.
Yeah. So I got my hair cut in the last 24 hours, thank you. And so I got it at Floyd's barbershop. I've never met Floyd. He could be a fictitious character for all I know. But when I walk in there, and I've gone to Floyd's in Dallas, I've gone to Floyd's here in Colorado, I kind of get a sense of who Floyd is or was or is supposed to be, right? There's loud music. Most of the folks there have tattoos, and I can expect a certain type of environment that is the Floyd's process, right? And so in the context of getting ready to sell a company, listen, we all get kind of romantically inclined towards our company. We want to be in the room. We enjoy that part of the process. A true founder and operator enjoys that. Again, I don't know who Floyd is, but Floyd has done a good job, if not a great job, of saying, hey, here's a bit of my personality. If you like loud music and tattoos and a straight blade shave after a haircut, this is what you can expect in interacting with my brand. And so, as a weird analogy to get to the point of your question is, I had to then extricate myself from my process and go, what are Beau's foundational ways that 80% of the time for all the clients that we were serving at that point in time are what I thought were specific to me, but I can actually then train those 2 or 3 things to people, and if they can do it 20% less good as I think I can with all my ego, and that 20% less good is still creating results for my customers, I can live with that, right? And maybe Floyd could cut hair really, really good, but if he could get someone to do a fade 20% less good as he could and still have tattoos and loud music and straight blade razors, awesome, congrats. He just operationalized a service. And I think a lot of us kind of die on that hill of being like, man, and I'm getting to know you guys, so I don't want to imply our weaknesses here, but I think we get romantic about those things. And delegation is a hard part. If you guys know the 4 quadrant, I think it's the Eisenhower matrix of decide, delegate, do, or delete. That delegation square is so hard for operators because we're romantic, we're excited about that, we enjoy our work, or we wouldn't have created the thing. And dying to that last 20% and operationalizing the other 80% is a big part of a service businesses, which is kind of where I come from. If it were creating widgets, I have way less wisdom and way less experience around that. But fortunately, service exits, which we can get into in a minute, are getting, number one, are growing in valuation and are heading in a really fun direction right now. So,
let's talk about that actually.
Yeah.
Well, actually, first off, what are the good things that you're seeing with the companies that you're consulting with as far as their systems and processes? And then also, what are the bad? And then also, how can we as an audience implement some of those good principles?
Yeah, so I think I'm going to get there by way of one benefit of selling something is, and right now I'm more buying things. And so a lot of the founders that I talk to are like, hey, why should I sell to you? Right? It's kind of an implicit conversation. And there's one thing we can't get back, which is time. And what I did through my exit was collapse time for myself in my professional journey. So at that point, in my startup agency, we were 4 years young. I had worked with Southwest and 1 or 2 kind of Fortune 500 folks by way of connection and a bit of hustling and a lot of time on planes. So I had like 1 or 2 headliner clients. When I walked into an environment that already had 3 or 4 headliner clients, those rosters kind of stacked on top of each other. And all of a sudden I called up my network and was like, hey, I've worked with Nike and Southwest and Google and Twitter. And all of a sudden that compression of time just, I mean, all of a sudden I was onboarding, oh my gosh, the World Expo in Dubai. And like, it just collapsed my sales cycle from an enterprise sales standpoint. Not a perfect analogy for, say, commercial construction services, which is where I'm currently kind of buying companies, and we can get into that. But no matter what, an acquisition for both the buyer and the seller has an opportunity to collapse time, which is implicit, but I think it needs to be said out loud as a reminder for people that are actively buying companies, and putting that out as a bit of rhetoric in that conversation, reminding people that not only are you going to collapse time by, obviously giving someone a paycheck and then some for their business, but also you're going to collapse time for their career, for wherever they want to go next, depending on the age and kind of where they're at in their career. More specific to processes. Right now, so my team, with my managing partners, we built our group with an agency's mindset. So the traditional playbook is to come in a roll-up strategy. How many of you guys are familiar with roll-ups? Not fruit roll-ups, but like, okay, sorry. You can tell I'm a dad of kids. So a roll-up strategy, traditionally, you come in, you buy what's called a platform company, which is going to be your kind of your bedrock that you build this entire strategy around. Typically, it's $2 to $3 million of EBITDA, and then you're gonna bolt on, it's called $1 million to $1.5 million of EBITDA per company over the next 5 to 7 years, and try to build that up to roughly right around $10 million of EBITDA, create the arbitrage, flip it for a large multiple, and therefore you create enterprise value and all these types of things. The implicit challenge on the qualitative side of things, not the quantitative side, but the qualitative side of that, is the folks in that platform company that you lean on and you go, hey, we're going to do a roofing roll-up. And you buy the biggest and baddest roofing company that you can find. Those people that work at that amazing roofing company, guess what? They did not wake up in their jobs 2 years ago and want to grow multiple roofing companies. They just didn't. They go, John Doe, I'm really inspired by you. I want to come work for you. I'm going to build out your sales and marketing. And then they did that, and they built an amazing thing. And now we're coming in as private equity going, well, hey, if you did that for John Doe's roofing, then can you do that for John Doe's roofing and Sally Sue's roofing and Betty Crocker's roofing that I'm buying? And you're asking these humans to have a portfolio mindset that didn't have a portfolio mindset to begin with. And yeah, maybe they're making some more money, maybe they have some shares. You can incentivize them quantitatively, but they're qualitatively not there. They didn't wake up with a multi-business portfolio mindset as an individual contributor. So how we built it, and there's bias in that, is I'm used to working around multi-brand operators that are used to running 5 to 10 to 15 clients through an advertising agency a year. And so I thought, well, I would much rather train old dogs with new tricks of owning their clients versus training new dogs to me, new people to me and companies that I'm buying with old tricks that I know of running multiple brands through a system all at once. So we actually took what's called, and I've learned retroactively, it's called operational alpha approach of having a centralized back office, which has been done before, but particularly on the sales and marketing side of things, with proven operators that are used to operating multiple brands all at once. And so that was kind of step one for us, is how do we collapse time through working with operators that I know that are already used to operating 5 and 10 brands at a time, versus training and ultimately crushing the souls of these individual contributors at platform companies until they burn out, which is not a healthy thing for anyone involved. So that's more of a people thing, but it also ties into processes and systems and mindset.
I like what you said about the mindset, though, because that's what I've noticed too with some of the founders that I've spoken to and then also experienced myself. So there was a shift in understanding when I heard more about multiple arbitrage and the understanding of value creation through the acquisition, and then also being able to leverage capital to be able to do that. But you have to create the plan first, right, to then be able to leverage the capital so that you can create the value within the company and then make your exit.
Yep.
How did that mindset come to you, or how did you seek it, and then how do you share it? I mean, you're sharing it now, so thank you.
So again, I'll introduce you to brick wall number 2, if you will. So we talked about brick wall number 1, which was my son being born early and going, what do I do with all of this? How do I now lead an organization? And then brick wall number 2 came, and this is with no resentment or anything involved towards my daughter, but she was born then, and we got her diagnosis that she was going to be born with special needs in the middle of my earnout. And at that point in time, I was pushing a lot of hours. I was on planes. I'd get an email on a Sunday, hey, can you come up to Nike's campus on a Tuesday? And you're like, come on, I'm grateful that people appreciate my opinion in these rooms, but I knew that those two things weren't congruent in my life, which is being the dad that I wanted to be and knew I needed to be for my daughter, and also kind of playing Don Draper in my professional career as kind of Mad Men and running around. I didn't drink as much, still don't drink as much. One wife of 17 years, no, whatever. But I just knew that those two worlds didn't collide, of me being Mad Men and running around and being the dad that I was being called to be for my daughter now, as she was going to be born with a significant spinal defect that was going to, doctors basically said, hey, she's not going to walk. She'll have significant cognitive delays. It's going to be a journey. So there's going to be bowel and bladder management issues. And I go, wait a second. I just broke the formula. This equation doesn't work anymore of me pushing 70 or 80 hours a week on planes, trains, and automobiles. What do I do with that? So I actually ended up walking away from the back third of my earnout, which had financial implications, but whatever. Like, I got to be the dad that I wanted to be. And so I did fractional CMO work for 5 companies and took my hours from 70 or 80 to, with a team of 40, running a $10 million agency, down to me in a basement and a laptop all over again. But I was with my daughter, and I was there, and I was able to be there throughout her journey. I will go ahead and get to the punchline of her journey for those parents in the room, for people that want to know a little bit more about her. So she downhill skied at Winter Park last season. She walks, she runs, she bikes without training wheels. She's now 6. And she's the light of my life. She's amazing. If we had slides, I'd be like, can we go for another 20 minutes on pictures of Amelia? Because that supersedes any of this junk. Yes, LeBron James' name is fun to drop at a cocktail party. I don't give a rat's rear about any of that at this point. I don't. But it focused my thinking around, okay, I've served a lot of clients. I've run multiple portfolios. I had a good mentor at my time. I was like, hey, what if you could own your clients versus serve your clients? And I was like, well, that sounds freaking amazing. I have some money, but I don't have that type of money. And that was my beginning journey into private equity. And so I became a student of it. I announced to the internet I was retiring from advertising. I did 5 fractional CMO roles. And then 3 of those 5 companies ended up selling to private equity throughout that journey. And by God's grace, those operators invited me into the room where it happens, as it would be said in Hamilton, right? So I got to go to the room where it happens in New York, and I got to sit at the boardroom table and got to see and observe what was going on in the other, and I'd go, hey, where's this money coming from? And I get to ask those questions kind of behind the scenes and see what it looks like to be on the other side of 3 exits. Now in that context, I did not negotiate. I did not know what a sell-side advisor was at that point in time. I did not negotiate a success fee or anything tied to that. But so their best day was my worst day, because what does private equity do? It comes in and takes over sales and marketing and operations and does all the things. And so, typically within a month or 2 of that exit, I get a, hey, Beau, thanks so much for the exit. Here's our Christmas card. Here's a fruit basket. Thanks for being a part of it. Unfortunately, we're going to have to end our retainer with you, but it's been a great journey. And it kept happening, again, a little bit Forrest Gump mentality. I'm like, well, okay, I understand it, and I saw it coming, but I appreciate that, and I go, well, I want to be on the other end of that one, right? And so that began my 5,000 to 10,000 hours of studying and kind of go deeper on this idea of how do I become an independent sponsor, build up my own portfolio, build out my team, and do all of this on the other side of the table.
That's a really good insight. I'd like to go into the funding portion of it, because it's not just about the funding that is needed, but that's a big portion of being able to do a roll-up or being able to purchase a company. And of course, we're here at Acquisition IQ. We'd like to dig a little deeper into that. So without taking the whole day, but we also know that we could around this topic, but where do you look for the funding that you're typically utilizing and how do you do that?
Yeah, so I'll tell you 2 mistakes, and I'll tell you where I landed as it relates to funding. So I consume the internet similar to you guys, so if you start typing this type of stuff, you're going to get ads from Cody Sanchez and Bridger Pennington and all these people that are trying to teach you their way. And I'm not here to discount those playbooks, but I'll tell you that the idea of building a fund as a day one, not one exit founder with a few exits around that he's been around, is not the most confidence-inspiring thing for someone to put just blank checks towards your fund around. Also, from a management fee standpoint, it takes an amazing amount of checks to stack up enough, essentially, of a management fee to build a life around off of that fund. It's typically, I think, don't quote me on this, but like 2 to 3%, something like that. So like, you can do the math. I got to go raise $50 million to take care of my family and my team while I'm going and finding out targets to buy. That's not particularly inspiring. So I'm going to be chasing down $50 million while sourcing deals at the same time and living on ramen. Not into it. No offense to Bridger, but I just don't have that. I didn't have that access to capital that day coming into it. And I was committed to doing this with a team because I'd had enough time in the basement at that point in time. So let's take Cody Sanchez. Cody, she's a mass marketer for kind of, zero down purchases, right? Hey, let's go get some SBA money. Let's go raise your 10% down. Let's go do those types of things. I have 2 friends that have now nearly lost their houses because they did not know how to qualify and source a deal correctly. They took on SBA money and went through that whole process, and they're now making monthly payments to our government on the back end of 2 botched exits. I hate that for them.
Yes.
And I really genuinely do. It's really sad for me to see because these guys bet their net worth and their reputation and on botched exits. And they went through a program that had less efficacy than potentially Nathan's here and the team, and had less immediate contextual-based coaching. And I looked over their purchase agreements, and out of 3 mistakes you can make on a purchase agreement, they made 3 of them. And I said, I can help you if you've made 2 of those mistakes, but you made 3. And without that contextual-based coaching for making an acquisition, you're going to make mistakes. It's not if, but it's when you're going to make mistakes, just because there's so many loopholes and things and mistakes that you could make in buying your first company. So those are 2. So I didn't want to go the fund route. By the way, it took me about 6 months to figure all that junk out. And I didn't want to go the SBA route. So I go, where's the Venn diagram here? Well, from all of my work prior to that, I knew that money follows mission. And so if you ever raise money and you're raising some money for something small, it's always harder to raise money for something big. And then inserted roll-ups in my life. And I was like, well, okay, well that's big enough, and the arbitrage is there, and the math makes sense, and that all checks out. Okay, well cool, let me go source some deals enough that where I have LOIs and where I have secured deals, that the mission is big enough that it's going to inspire the money behind it. And it's going to inspire money in such a way that I don't need to go talk to the SBA. I don't need to go raise a huge blind pool fund that I lock up someone's money for 5 to 7 years.
That's good.
And I split the difference and I go, hey, Mr. Investor, this is exactly what you're investing into. And here's my exact journey as how I'm going to take it from point A to point C. I just need you to be with me from point A to point B to point C. And here's the exact process. Mind you, this is all happening pre-election. By the way, I can pause on those 2 models if you want to do a quick Q&A around, because I guarantee there's SBA money in here that have done great deals in that, and there's also funds. So I'm not saying that I'm just highlighting some pros and cons.
We'll take questions right at the end, but you're on a roll.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I go, okay, money follows mission. Who are my favorite entrepreneurs that I've worked with within my advertising agency career? And lo and behold, they were not LeBron James or any of these names that look great on a roster. It was the mom and pops in their basement that had created and built something, and then as I grew their ads and grew their marketing and blah, 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 they would call me up and go, Beau, I got to hire 3 people this past quarter because of you. I get way more joy and fulfillment from that conversation than helping Google's B2B sales conversion rate increase by 0.08%. Not super exciting, not going to be great on my epitaph, not things that I'm excited about. So I was like, how do I get to be around more mom and pops? Well, research, reading, what are the AI safe categories in today's future? If you guys, how many of y'all are parents? So there's a book series by Richard Scarry, rough last name, and it goes through that, and there's like ice cream salesmen and people painting and plumbing and all those types of things. I saw a meme the other day. It was like the safest things from AI, the robots taking over the world, are professions featured in a Richard Scarry book. It was like, that actually makes total sense. Sure enough, it's barbers, which we talked about. It's all of these things that we can't replace with robots. So I go, okay, cool. Where does my life lead me? Where do I want to build my life around? Where do I want to build these portfolios? Where do I have great operators I can lean on and trust? Florida happened to be where my daughter's surgeries and orthopedic care is happening. No offense to the children's system here or any of the stuff here, but we just happened to find an amazing orthopedic surgeon out there. I was like, I'm going to build a life around some time out in Florida. And I've got great operators out there, and commercial construction's happening at a great rate. So I'm going to go build a portfolio out there. My mom, recently widowed, is in Dallas. I'm going to go build a portfolio out there. So this is, again, sorry, I'm getting, you let me go. But Jerry Jones, ironically, in a recent series of Landman, how many of you guys seen Landman, the TV show? Jerry Jones, I'm an early 90s, I'm Texan by birth. The early 90s were amazing, and as a Cowboys fan, they're not been great, and I blame Jerry mostly on that. But Jerry walks into the hospital room of a nearly retired oil and gas executive who is nearly on his deathbed. And he goes, hey, I bought things around where my kids were. And I built a life with them, not for them. And that's been a mindset of mine from the very beginning, is how do I build a professional life with my kids? I don't know if my son wants to be around commercial plumbing when he grows up, but I know that my daughter's orthopedic surgeon's in Florida, so I know that I'm going to build things out in Florida. So we're going to go do that. Sorry, that was a quick pause.
I was going to say one thing that stood out from, and I don't know if it stood out for you guys, but money will follow the mission. I mean, if everything that you said, it's extremely important to be able to get refined and define exactly what that future looks like. And I think that many of us, we allow for our circumstances to dictate where we're going in life as opposed to us dictating the future that we really want. So, at the end of the day, it's about becoming a little bit more refined and defined as to where you go.
Yeah, and I'll put a fine point around that and tell you about the model that I landed on. So, all of a sudden it became very clear to me I needed to build off-market deal flow in Florida, an operator that I know, like, and trust, that I've known for 10 years out there. And that was going to be where my first set of companies that I go buy from as a kid in Colorado. So off-market deal flow. Do you know how most of our competitors find off-market deal flow? They put a 21-year-old intern in a seat and hand them essentially the modern-day yellow pages and say, call every roofer in the zip code and try to establish rapport with them. And that's what Stanford graduates are doing right now in the Northeast. Just full stop. That's what's happening. And there's search funds that are paying people $200,000 a year to bring back one viable deal a year to private equity. If you're an operator of any sort, you probably see more than one viable deal a year, probably see it a month. Do you realize what a rare gem that is to traditional people that came from this place, stereotypically graduated from an Ivy League school, and haven't operated a business truly from point A to point B themselves? Your network is so much more powerful than you probably give it credit if you built a business in any way, shape, or form or capacity. Organically, I was seeing 3 or 4 deals a month because I had past clients going, hey, I don't know about this, I don't want to run this anymore, or whatever that conversation looks like. So there's something happening within your networks right now that looks like a roll-up that you just haven't known to call it a roll-up, just as something actionable. I knew a consultant of home services companies in Florida. I called up my buddy Jason. I go, hey Jason, do you have any clients in home services since you've done that for the last 10 years in Florida? He goes, as a matter of fact, I have 60 people that I've worked with over the last X amount of years in Florida. And I go, great. I'm looking for people that are running companies between 1 and 4 million EBITDA. I want to have a dinner at the Capitol Grill in 2 months. I want to fly out 3 times ahead of that, shake hands with 10 10 to 15 to 20 potential of your clients that I want to potentially buy, and I want to get a tight list of 7 or 8 that I meet at the Capitol Grill in 2 months' time. And now I just shorten, again, compressing time. I didn't have to go build out that market by myself. Jason gets a finder's fee he's taken care of. I fly out there, I meet couches and spouses tour. Like, I sit on their couch, I get to know their spouse. I'm in their living rooms talking to 63-year-old men about their company and where they want to see it, where they want to see their legacy go from there. So the thesis for us is home services and commercial construction companies and where those two interlock, which is a weird thing for an ad man to go after. But what I do have is relationships with Hilton, Wyndham, Marriott, and I'm decently gifted at enterprise sales. I don't know jack about plumbing, but I don't need to if you've in theory done $2 million of EBITDA of plumbing work over the last 10, 20 years. I just need to introduce you to Marriott and Wyndham and Hilton and grow your business that way and compress a few things. So that's how I built that up. We can get to the Capitol Grill moment because I think that was kind of fun.
Yeah, let's do that, and then we'll open it up for Q&A. I just wanted to say one thing too, maybe just to highlight what he did say is the investors in a fund. It's a speculative raise. It's a little bit, there's a refinement around a fund because there are specific investment criteria that the fund invests in, but it's not as refined as what you just said as far as the percentages and the return on investment and every aspect of that. So just kind of clarify, and I like what you said, because you're sharing with investors, this is what you invest in, this is what your return will be. It's not some fictitious 5 to 7 year plan that,
That's exactly right. And because if I could solve for finding off-market deal flow that I could control essentially the cadence of the deal, and if I could solve for the volume, both the quality and the quantity of candidates to buy, I can then look at my investor in the eye and say, no, you're not just buying into this blind pool fund, you're buying these 3 companies with me, and here's what the immediate enterprise value is when you combine those 3 together, and then we have this bolt-on candidate number 4, and we have this bolt-on candidate number 5. When we hit these numbers, oh, by the way, I've developed relationships with the origination team at true mid-market deal flow, i.e. Riverside, who bought Neighborly, things like that I can point to and go, here's the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. So I'm naming the names of the companies. I'm showing them the immediacy of the roll-up coming together without saying, over the next 5 years, we're going to magically cold call until we're white in the face and hopefully diligence and buy X amount of companies. I can go, no, I sat down with them at the Capitol Grill last Tuesday, and here's their numbers, and here's the process they're going through. And all of that, all of that sizzle becomes steak to an investor. And they go, oh, okay, I understand the meat and the potatoes that I'm actually investing into in this context.
It's funny how you're talking about food and we literally have Mexican grill right out there.
Sorry.
That is incredible. So what happened at the grill? And then we'll open up for Q&As for about 5 to 7 minutes, and then boom, we'll eat some of that Mexican grill.
So I basically stand up in a private room and I go, hey, how many of you guys know each other in this room from being in this industry? Sure enough, about 2/3 of them knew about 2/3 of them, right? It's a tight market. They know each other. They've got respect for each other, etc. And I go, do you see a world that you guys, if you had humans around you and helping you in the back office side of things, where you would cross-sell services between yourselves more often? And immediately these guys are like, yeah, of course. Like, I meant to send, Rodrigo and this guy business, I meant to do this over this last time, but it's not my day job. And I go, well, cool, that's going to be my day job. So that's how a roll-up works, is we have people that are watching your back, going through RFPs, making sure that if we're bidding on commercial plumbing, that we're also bidding on commercial siding and stucco and paint at the same time. So it's one team, one dream. And now they're understanding a roll-up strategy and how that works. Right? I got to understand these guys haven't spent 10,000 hours studying how roll-ups work. So I've got to explain it in real common language, slow them down, and then I go, cool, if we all do that together for 2 years' time, do you think that we will be more valuable to the people that buy this thing versus if you did it separately? And of course they're like, yeah, we will be more valuable. I go, well, okay, this isn't Pokemon. I can't catch you all. I can't buy you all. I can only do a certain amount. So for the next 6 weeks, you're going to go through a formulaic process of doing early pre-due diligence, and my team is going to be reaching out to you and asking for a certain set of documents. And if you don't hit your milestones, you're essentially ringing the bell. If you're familiar with the BUDS process to become a SEAL, you're ringing the bell, you're tapping out, right? So like this Tuesday, a week from today, I need 3 years of P&Ls in my inbox by 10 o'clock. And if they're not there by 10 o'clock, you rung the bell. And we just kept going through milestone after milestone after milestone. And this is where AI comes in and technology comes in, because I've got smart people around me. I'm like, cool, now we're ingesting 7 P&Ls from 7 different companies all at once, and we're going through and cranking through that data as fast as possible. The next week, the next interval hits, the next week, and we get down to our final list of 3. So that was the process from there on.
Strategic process. Well, this has been good. Have you guys enjoyed today so far? I like it. Well, let's open up. I don't want to ask all the questions. I'd like for you guys to also ask some questions, and we'll hand around the mic. Does anyone have any specific questions around funding, around buy strategy, around anything for this gentleman? Anybody? Yeah, one in the back here.
Yeah, I can shout.
All right.
You were mentioning earlier kind of that key converting from sizzle to steak, right, with investors. Could you expand a little bit on that? Of like in your experience, what have you found to be most productive in getting that investor confidence in your plan or whatever it is that you're doing? But just any kind of lessons learned there, or what sticks out for you?
Yeah, the question is how to clarify, or how to, in essence, get investors to obviously invest in your deal, but have more confidence and clarity around that investment.
Yeah, so one thing that I did throughout this process is while I was shopping for companies, I was also attending every family office conference I could attend. And I would just be a back row Joe and just take in the language of those conferences, try to understand them, try to understand what were hot button issues, what were exciting. So I'm just taking that in, ingesting that, etc. The word third-party due diligence kept coming up, and quality of earnings kept coming up. Again, brick wall methodology. Eventually I find a ladder. I'm like, okay, Googling quality of earnings, embarrassingly, right? And I'm over there going through that process of going, okay, with my first dollar in and the dollars that I'm investing into this, for me to make it to the big boys table, quote unquote, I need to have not only third-party financials in this, I need to have a full quality of earnings from a third party that I spent somewhere between $20,000 and $50,000 on. And this is where I have significant issues with low to mid-market players saying that you can buy something with 0 down.
Exactly.
Without that $30,000 or $40,000 spreadsheet that we invested into as a managing partner group, I'm not getting a phone call back. I'm not getting into any rooms that equate to any multiple 7 or 8 figure conversations on the debt side or the equity side of things. No matter how beautiful my deck was, it's not happening. Because there's no bankable deal that hasn't had a quality of earnings behind it. And if you show up with your homework done, people are going to be like, holy crap, this guy actually knows his stuff. He's actually done his homework. He's actually spent money on a very expensive spreadsheet. And now we didn't spend that 7 times over on all 7 of my candidates. That would have been very expensive and a very costly mistake. We kept on winning it down to like the final candidates, and then we're like, okay, we're going to put them into the final quality of earnings process. Right? And now it's, hey, here's the deck, here's the data room, and here's the quality of earnings.
That's good.
All of a sudden, people are just like, wow, you read my mind in terms of what I actually needed. And you're showing up as an independent sponsor with named deals, named humans, successors already in place to run these companies, and a viable exit plan with relationships with the origination team from 2 or 3 mid-market candidates that we know. Oh, and by the way, you're working with a legal firm that we know, like, and trust. It's a lot of ands, but like that homework has paid off for us significantly.
Okay, you said about being in the right rooms to get the download behind the scenes. That's what's happening right now. So we appreciate you guys for being in this room. Let's do another one. Anybody else?
What's up?
What are the non-PG options for buying a business outside of like SBA?
Yeah. Again, so the Venn diagram of fund and SBA style deals, in my personal opinion, the middle ground is independent sponsor. So like this coming week in New York, iGlobal is a big kind of independent sponsor event. We'll have one of my managing partners is speaking there. An independent sponsor is a fancy way of saying someone that has specific deals with specific funding behind it, right? And that's what you're funding. Because I'm doing a roll-up and because I have the amount of candidates that I have for the roll-up involved, no lender is going to look at me and be like, hey, Beau, I know you're asking for like $14, $15 million. Do you mind if you PG your house for that? As an independent sponsor and with that level of assets in hand, a lender understands that PGing my house, it's a nice house, is not enough collateral for a $14 to $15 million debt and equity raise. Money follows mission, and bigger is easier. It took me at least 3 to 6 more months to go source these deals, but that 3 to 6 more months of sourcing has paid off in dividends that I'm not PGing my house for a $14 to $15 million deal. Would I PG my house on this deal because I trust it that much? Short answer is yes. Do I have to? No. Does my wife love me for that? Yes. Does she still support me and think I'm a little crazy? Yeah. As Tim Allen says, every good man has a woman standing behind her rolling her eyes. So like she understands some of this is like going hard and fixing that and running through brick walls and doing all these things. But if you get to a certain deal size, you do not need to, and a lender is not going to ask you to PG something because the assets of the parties that you're buying equate to all the collateral they need for getting over that hump. Now, we can get into debt service coverage ratios and all sorts of other secondary metrics behind that, but that is the power of a roll-up that's well-sourced and well-stacked from day one.
Incredible. Well, let's give Beau here a round of applause. We'll break for lunch.